We come now to verse 46 of the 7th chapter of the Gospel of John. We are in the midst of a conversation that certain officers are having with the religious leaders who had sent them to arrest Jesus, to lay hands on him, to arrest him, to bring him into custody. We see that back in verse 32 of this 7th chapter. And now we pick up the drama here, beginning in verse 45, actually, where we hear that the officers returned empty-handed, that they had not apprehended Jesus, and the question is put to them by these leaders who had sent them, how come they had not fulfilled their mission? And the response they give, of course, becomes one of the most famous statements in all the Gospel of John, really in all the Bible, concerning the nature of Christ and the way that he had an impact on those who experienced his ministry. It starts off here, apokrithesan. This is from apokrinomai. It means to answer. It takes the dative. And in this case, there is no object, so it's simply they answered. This is the third person plural, aorist, active indicative. It's deponent, so it's passive in form, though active in meaning. Same word that we saw in the previous verse, huperetai. This is a word that means to row under, literally. It goes back to the days of the Greek Navy and those who were the rowers in these Greek military boats, but nevertheless it came to mean over time simply those who were appointed to a certain task, who were under the supervision of someone else. And so these are the officers. Usually that's the way it's translated here. And so the officers, apokrithesan, answered. And then a very interesting word here, somewhat unusual, udepote. Udepote is actually a combination of a couple of words. The ude can mean not, not even, nor, that idea. The pote has to do with ever, in the sense of time. It's a very strong word. Usually translated never, but it should be translated never kind of in caps or something like that, to show the emphasis that's laid upon it. Not at any time, ever, did something happen is the idea. So it's a very strong word for never. And then we have elalesen. This is from laleo, contract verb, means to speak. This is the third person singular, aorist active indicative, so he spoke. So never, elelasen, he spoke, hutos. This is an indeclinable adverb. It means thus or so or in this manner. And then anthropos, of course the word for man. No definite article here, so it would be a man. And so putting it together, it's simply the idea of never at any time a man spoke thus. No one has ever spoken like this. It is reminiscent, of course, of the first chapter of the Gospel of John, in which John says, in the beginning was the Word. Jesus was the Word, and when he opened his mouth, there was a power to his Word. It brings to mind the image of Christ that we find in Revelation 19, the sword that comes out of the mouth of the rider on the horse. When Jesus opened his mouth, it was as if a weapon were coming out, this powerful Word. And of course, John likes to highlight that point. We've seen it before, we'll see it again. But here, of course, one of the more poignant expressions of that great aspect of the ministry of Christ. No one ever spoke like this man.